I've been an attorney since 2004, a mom since 2007, and a photographer since 2011. Over the years, my role as memory keeper and memory revealer have been constantly in flux. While sharing my way through motherhood, I began to question whether I was putting my children's privacy in jeopardy, and whether their life stories were really mine to tell. Studying children's privacy on social media fed both my personal interests and my professional passions. So 7 years ago, I delved deep into the work of studying the intersection of a child's right to privacy and a parent's right to share, an area of research that's often called sharenting. I'm a former child abuse prosecutor, and I'm currently a law professor. I'm also a photographer. It was my experience of time in the courtroom, my life as an academic, and my day-to-day world as a mom to 3 very photogenic children that led me to do this work, which ultimately led to me writing a book called Growing Up Shared that was published last year. I'd like us to first shift our focus away from where it traditionally centers. Instead of focusing on our kids and what our kids might be doing wrong online, I'd like us to instead look at us adults. And I'd like to talk to you about how parents might be able to make better, more well-informed decisions when they choose to share online. And about how policymakers can do a better job protecting children's data when families do make the choice to share their information on social media. So much attention is focused on our kids and trying to tell our kids to be better protectors of their own privacy. But as parents, we ultimately only have a finite amount of control over what our kids are doing online. But we have full control over our own choices. Isn't it odd that so much attention is focused on their bad behavior and so little is pointed at our own? Our kids have digital identities long before they first take their first step on Instagram. And here are 5 things that I think that we as a society can do to better protect their privacy. Number 1, give kids veto power. It's important that any time we take a picture of a child and we consider sharing, we ask them what they think about it and let them have a say in which of their stories they share, in which of their pictures they choose to let the world see. Every time we take a picture of a child and we post it without asking them, we're teaching them that when they become social media users themselves, that they don't need to ask people either. But if we take a moment and we talk to them about it, we have a powerful opportunity. We have an opportunity to talk to them about consent. We have an opportunity to model respect. And these lessons are going to be critical for our teens to understand, long before they first log on to Instagram. Speaking about Instagram, a few years ago, when my oldest son was finally old enough to get Instagram, he took a picture and he posted it on social media without asking me or his little brother first. I was fine with it because I looked pretty good in the picture. But his little brother wasn't so happy because he wasn't asked first. And while at first I was really proud of my 7-year-old at the time to be able to voice that he was upset that something had been shared without his permission, I also wanted to get upset with my then 13-year-old for sharing something without checking. But I had to do a little soul searching, because the truth is, before I started researching sharenting, I posted so much online. I had a public blog during the first few years of his life. So instead of using that first moment of him sharing without asking his brother first, I did my best to turn what could have been a moment to admonish him and tried to turn it into a teaching moment, one that started with me offering an apology and promising to next time try harder to practice what I preach. And by the way, the 7-year-old was very okay with me sharing this with all of you today, just to be clear. Number 2, don't mistake highlight reels for real memories. It is really easy for me to get sucked into the instant gratification that social media offers. But every time we take a picture and we post it right away online, we miss out on staying in the moment that we're in, and we temporarily escape to our news feeds. We're also leaving the people that are right in front of us. And for most of us parents, those people in front of us are often our kids. I think we need to give our kids an opportunity to make memories that are not impeded by our use of our digital devices. A few years ago, I was at an event where my younger son received an award, and I was in the back row with my camera, taking lots of pictures. And I was really happy with the pictures I took. I got some great pictures, the lighting was amazing. And after the ceremony was over, the families were socializing. The kids were eating cake, and the parents were talking, and I was staring at my camera. And I saw a picture that I really wanted to share with a friend and with his daughter. So I went up to the family, I turned on my camera, and I said, "Look at these pictures I got of your daughter getting her award. Look how cool it is." And the friend was like, "That's okay, Stacey. Why don't you email them to me? She can see it later." My friend wanted his daughter to enjoy being at the party, wanted her to have the opportunity to enjoy running around and eating her cake with her friends. He wanted his daughter to remember what it felt like to be on stage receiving that award. The bright lights in her eyes, the sounds of her shoes on the floor, looking out into the second row and seeing her dad. That's how he wanted his daughter to remember that moment, not by the view that I captured through my camera lens in the back of the auditorium. It turns out that dad, whether he knew it or not, had a concern that actually had some scientific basis. It turns out that when we look at an image really close in time to an event, it changes the way our mind processes that moment, and it can alter our memories. Writing for the New York Times, Julia Cho helped me understand that when we are constantly documenting childhood, we are in some ways rewriting childhood. But we want our kids to have memories that are based on their perceptions as kids, right? Like, I want my daughter to remember the first time that she went to Disney World on her own terms, not by the edited and curated view that I captured and then shared with my friends on my social media newsfeed. Number 3, we need more research to understand the tangible risks of oversharing. Now, earlier today, I asked you to shift your focus away from the kids and instead to focus on us parents. But it's not all about the parents. We can't do it alone. Instead, we need lawmakers to use evidence-based research to enact policies and laws that better protect children's information. There are risks that go along with oversharing. Some of them make for very scary headlines. There are risks that pedophiles are taking advantage of the pictures that parents share and using them for bad purposes. One horrifying study that I read when I started my research said that the E-Safety Commissioner of Australia predicted that 50% of all images on pedophile image sharing sites had originated on social media and on parents' blogs. There's also risks that data collectors are using artificial intelligence to build digital dossiers on our kids. And they could use those digital dossiers to sell, or they could also be stolen and our children's information could be at risk. The bank Barclays has predicted that by the year 2030, 2/3 of all identity theft will be able to be tied back to parenting. These risks are all real and they are all concerning. But we really don't know how common any of these things are from real, valid scientific studies. And so we need more science so that we can better empower parents to weigh the day-to-day benefits that they experience when they share on social media with the potential risks that might also exist when they do it. Number 4, we may need some more legal remedies for kids. In my work, I never want to silence a parent's voice. Instead, I want to empower parents so that they can make better sharing decisions on behalf of their families. But sometimes empowerment comes too late, and information that we share online about our kids and about ourselves can outlive its welcome on the internet. And one way that we might be able to reset the balance is something that you here in Europe already have, and it's called the right to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten is a legal doctrine that recognizes that after information is shared, at a certain point, it might not any longer be relevant to the person's reputation or to their name, and they might have a right to have that information basically deleted from the public sphere. And what the right to be forgotten could do is that it could allow parents an opportunity to share their stories online. But it would also recognize that as kids get older, that right to share has to be minimized. to make way for the growing and competing privacy interests of the child. Ultimately, what this does is it would allow parents to continue to get the benefits of sharing, of making community, of getting help online. But that if children get to a certain age, they would be able to request basically a deletion of their Google footprint to have that information that's shared. So if a parent has shared something and it's now listed in a child's Google search result, the child would be able to basically get the link between their name and that Google search result broken. Now, it will be challenging to see a law like the right to be forgotten get enacted in the country that I'm from, the United States, because in the United States, we have very strong free speech protections and we strongly value parental autonomy. But there are other areas in the law where free speech and parental autonomy, that we make exceptions in the law to make way for the competing privacy needs or the safety needs that we have involved in society. And I believe that this is a conversation that we need to have because it might be the only way that we can better protect kids' information when they get older. Number 5, see the good. Along with taking a lot of pictures of my own kids, I've taken many pictures of many other kids, many other families, including children who have faced chronic illnesses like pediatric cancer. These families have decided to share the pictures that I've taken, and I've shared the pictures with their blessing because they know that so much good can come from sharing their experiences with others. These families have seen firsthand how helpful it's been for their kids to have connections to their community outside the four walls of their hospital room. When we share wholeheartedly, others who are similarly situated can gain support and they can gain knowledge. It can help us make connections in our brick and mortar world and brand new connections in our virtual one. When we share about our own experiences, we can raise awareness for important social justice issues, we can raise funding for important medical research, and we can really make a difference in the world through our vulnerability. I've experienced this firsthand a few years ago when my son was bullied in middle school for being Jewish. We first tried to get the situation resolved by working with the school board. But when that didn't work, with my son's blessing, we decided to go onto social media and to let our community know what he had been going through. It was scary to take that step, but we really felt stuck. And the response was incredible. One of our friends got behind him and offered to start a petition asking our school board to take all bullying, and specifically anti-Semitism, more seriously. And my friend shared that petition, and within just 2 days in our small community, over 1,500 families, 1,500 parents decided to share it, Jews and non-Jews alike. And when we went to the school board to tell the school board what our concerns were, my 13-year-old son surprised us all because he decided that he also wanted to speak up and to share what had happened to him. I wasn't thinking about sharing today, my son told the school board in front of a packed audience. But then we had a petition, and I decided that I was ready to share. My son didn't need my voice anymore. He had found his own, in no small part to the support that he received on social media. It has been a thrilling ride to sit with the families that have been raising kids alongside social media. It's often been very challenging to change my own sharing practices, to model what I've now learned through my research. Over the years, I've recognized that families don't overshare online because they're trying to be malicious. Many just have never considered the importance of their child's digital footprint. And in my 20 years of lawyering and 7+ years of research, I still make mistakes. There's so many questions that I still don't have answers to. I even struggled to decide what pictures it would be okay to share here with you today, even though the photos you've seen I took and am sharing with the parents' blessing. What I've discovered is that it is critical that if we are going to spend so much time talking about what our kids are constantly doing wrong online, it's critical that we take a minute and point the mirror back at ourselves. That said, sharing should definitely respect a child's developmental level. It might be just fine to share more broadly when our kids are little. But that sharing has to be minimized to make way for the growing and important independent needs of that child as they get older and need their own autonomy. And maybe it's about balance, and I'm still looking for it. One day, a few years ago, my younger son was featured in a chess tournament on one local news channel on the same day that I went on another channel to talk about children's privacy. And when I got home and got him tucked into bed, I shared both my news feature and his with my friends on social media. I still occasionally share my younger son's gymnastics highlights. I share my daughter's beautiful artwork. I share my older son's awesome drum solos. But I always ask them now before I do. And sometimes they come to me asking me to share. My kids know that I share because I'm proud of them. But they also know that I'd be proud of them even if they didn't want me to share. And what I do know now with absolute certainty is that we need to be thinking about how we share about our kids. We need to be talking about it and debating it like we talk about educating our kids, like we talk about how we're going to keep them healthy, like we stress out over how much time our younger kids are spending watching YouTube, and like we have no clue and go back to the drawing board time after time when we try to figure out how to keep our teenagers safe once they get social media of their own. I hope my research ultimately helps protect children's digital footprints. I hope it helps parents share smarter and that it makes kids feel heard. Our kids are the first generation to grow up shared, and we're the first generation of parents to have this task of trying to raise kids while having social media. This isn't easy. We don't have our life experiences to guide us and to help us make better sharing choices. Our experiences in the cafeteria don't translate well to their experiences on Instagram. But what I do know is that we're going to have to take all this information in. We're going to have to be understanding it and processing it and seeing how social media affects our families and putting our findings into practice all at once. And that's hard. But if we sit back and we wait for our kids to go through our newsfeed and to tell us what they think about what we've shared, well, at that point, it will be too late to step back and unpublish their childhoods. Our kids are counting on us to share smarter and to help keep them safe in a no-privacy world. Thank you.